Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is just a normal, absolute wonderful day. Today, we get to visit with Irina Slav. She is an authoress in Bulgaria, and she writes for publications like Oil Price, but she also has her own Substack. And if you're not subscribed to her Substack, you need to, or you're missing out. So, welcome. Good morning, Irina.
Good morning, Stu. It's great to see you again.
Now, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon up there in Bulgaria, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so do you like your new, I see your books have filled in and it looks like you have a beautiful eagle or something. So
That's my daughter's art. Yeah, yeah.
yay. So
Yeah.
you are moving in, you've moved into your farm and
Yeah.
everything's doing great.
So far, so good. Yeah. There's a lot of work to do yet, but obviously we're trying to, work the land. So this is a lot of work, but that's okay.
I don't know how you write so much and work the land. I'm just not, I'm just honored that you got some time to talk to me. But for my listeners and things, they know you and they know that we've had discussions on this and the hypocrisy that's going on in the world right now. You have fun when you talk about the hypocrisy. And some of your current articles that are on Substack, we talk about the hypocrisy in the pipeline in Africa when they say we can't build the pipeline because it's going to have too much emissions as it comes through, but yet it's going to help the poverty and elevate more people out of poverty and help the world supply. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what you perceive as fun is actually a very deep frustration with how the world is being operated these days. But yes, when it comes to Africa, there's a great deal of hypocrisy. And it's not just ESG hypocrisy, it's total energy hypocrisy, because about this pipeline from Uganda to Tanzania to the coast, basically funding for this pipeline was discouraged. Several hundred organizations, NGOs wrote an open letter calling for financial institutions to not finance this pipeline. But it's not just this pipeline, it's also natural gas. Basically, the developed world was trying to tell Africa, you're already low emitters, keep it that way, try to go straight to renewables.
Wow.
Which is not possible because most African countries are trying to industrialize. They're trying to become developed countries. And developed countries became developed thanks to fossil fuels. Nobody started off with renewables. And now seeing how renewables are going, even in the countries with the most wind and solar installations, suggests that these forms of energy are not sufficient to sustain a developed economy. Just look at the gas prices in Europe. So now the G7 went back on a commitment to stop all investments in third countries, also including African countries, for fossil fuel projects. Now, suddenly, not just the G7, but Europe as a whole is very interested in African natural gas specifically. And even one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, the International Energy Agency's Fatih Birol, said that it's fine if African countries develop their natural gas reserves. But he also noted that they should develop these reserves while the going is good, while there's still demand for gas. Basically welcome European investors and make their lives easier while you can, because they want natural gas forever, which is crap, of course. Europe will be needing natural gas for years and years to come. So yeah, they're going back on these moral commitments to a cleaner future and how Africa should become reliant on wind and solar, which is impossible. by now.
I ask a stupid question, which is normal for me, but when you sit back and kind of go, we learned a lot from what's happened in Germany by trying to make the transition to, renewables before the technology is ready and the kilowatt per hour to the consumer goes through the roof. Why are we trying to impose that on Africa when they need just basic electricity? But we could take that learning, what we've learned in how to produce oil and gas with least amount of impact to the environment.
Yes, that's something we have learned already, yes.
And let's take all of our knowledge and give them all of our knowledge. I don't understand that.
Well, because as McKinsey said recently in a recent report, the energy transition is not just a moral statement anymore. It's good business. There is apparently a lot of money to be made in wind and solar, but not in Africa, because there aren't enough paying customers there. Although some forms of renewable energy, for example, microgrids, small solar installations, seem to be working on a very small and limited scale.
Right. And that makes sense. And that's what they're
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah.
And I think that renewables need to be used in exactly that same kind of a thing. But you bring up a great point also with the hypocrisy. Look at the US government passing that gigantic, stupid bill. It's all about renewable. I mean, it's all about. Do you think we learned anything from all of this problem? It seems like there's the fire, we poured gasoline on it, and now we're jumping.
That's exactly what your legislators seem to be doing. Yeah, it's really mind-boggling when you have the data from Europe. You can see that wind is not performing consistently, solar is not performing consistently, and they cannot perform consistently because they're not consistent sources of energy.
No.
And yet they went ahead and passed this bill, and well, my commiserations.
It's horrible for the US. But when we take a look at why I don't like the attitude of the world trying to tell Africa. When you take a look at China and these other ones that are dropping in and they're funding these projects, and then it's like having the mafia, they own you. And when they put in these energy projects, it's like, that's not a very good thing to owe China or owe Russia things, because they will call that favor in someday.
Yeah, but it is the same with the West.
We do the same thing, yes.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying, just like, but we do the same thing as well too. It's like drilling off of Nigeria. I mean, the big boys come in and they drill, and I think Nigeria folks are not paid as much as they should be.
Yes, I actually remember, I think it was a deputy oil minister from Nigeria speaking at the metals conference in Saudi Arabia this January. He said that when he was a child, when he was little, he remembered, was it Chevron or Exxon? I can't remember. One of the super majors came to make huge investments in Nigerian oil, but it only invested in oil production. It never invested in local communities. It never built schools and this sort of thing. And this is where the Chinese are far ahead from the West, because when they go to the Congo or to another African country, they build roads. They help with infrastructure.
Why isn't
of course, this is to their own benefit, because you want to mine the cobalt or the copper or whatever, and then you want to have secure infrastructure to transport it.
See, that's smart. I mean,
they are smart. They're investing in everything. They're investing in the whole supply chain, which Western companies apparently have not been doing. So African countries are now changing their legislations and Saudi Arabia too is changing its mining law. It changed it to make investors not just come and start mining,
Right.
but also commit to things like community development, infrastructure development.
That is what it needs to happen. Why do we not hear that in the news over here? I mean, all we hear is it's bad, but we don't hear that we're doing just the same thing. That's really pathetic.
Because the West likes to think they're the good guys. There are no good guys.
No.
In geopolitics, there are no good guys. Everybody looks after their own interests, which is as it should be.
Well,
but,
it's kind of like our last podcast you and I put out. We got flagged by the UN. Wasn't that funny? I mean, it was kind of like warning, the UN says this, and I'm like, come on, folks.
Oh, well, yeah.
And we even say we use renewable when the market says it, but they don't care. They listen to the transcript and go, Google does that, and then they throw the UN in there. Anyway, I may get thrown off the platform one of these days, but oh well. I guess that's why.
That's because we live in a democracy and nobody censors anybody, That's why you might get thrown off the platform.
See, my listeners love you when you have your sarcasm and your good sense of humor and everything else. I just love the way you phrase these things. So
thanks.
Now, tell us about Armando and David. How is that going for you? Are you having fun? You look like you guys are just having.
We are having so much fun, and it's obscene, really. It's very, very impolite because we're discussing very serious problems.
Yes.
But I think because most of these problems were caused by either stupidity or some hidden agenda, but as I've said before, I try to steer clear of any suggestion of conspiracy theories. I like evidence, I like proof. And for now, the only proof I see is of utter stupidity and incompetence and ignorance. And I'm putting it mildly. I mean, I have a foul mouth when I need to, but because of your listeners, I'm trying to be civil. Really, right now, all the renewable energy, front runners such as Germany, such as the UK, they are literally reaping the fruit of their labor in this direction, and this fruit is rotten. This fruit is higher energy bills for their own people. In the UK, I don't know if you've heard, it was carried by major news media. Thousands of people are now refusing to pay their electricity bills because these bills are getting too high. And in the meantime, guess what? There's a drought, apparently, in Britain. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's a rainy country, but okay, climate change, extreme weather. And people are now being advised by their water utilities to switch from taking showers to, bathing themselves with wet towels to save on water. Yes, they're banning the use of hose pipes to water their gardens because there's not enough water.
So they can't eat when they do their gardens. But wind farms take away from the moisture in the air. If they're sitting out there and coming inland and that moisture is no longer there, I believe. How
dare you? Did you just accuse wind turbines of possibly having something to do with the drought in Britain?
Isn't that just, I believe.
I don't know. Yeah, they do affect weather patterns. I wrote about it. And a lot of people actually apparently have studied this, but it's not being widely publicized, obviously, because it's not politically correct. So I don't know if we can attribute any of this to the number of wind turbines in Britain, but it seems like nature doesn't like Europe very much right now because Europe is also hit by droughts. And I'm sure this will be attributed to climate change, because everything these days is being attributed to climate change, and everything is extreme weather, even if it's heat during July.
Right.
So,
I think
yeah.
the only thing that is really keeping in the US the renewables alive is printing money, and then the tax incentives. And then our tax incentives for electric vehicles in this new bill. It's the average American can't afford a electric vehicle. There's not enough charging stations, and we're being looked down on, and we're also being told that if we don't just jump into the EV, how can people afford it? How is the EV in Bulgaria, the electronic vehicle?
Well, I was over the past couple of years, say, I have been seeing a growing number of EVs in Sofia. There was even a Tesla Model S, a very cute one, in our neighborhood. But there aren't a lot of charging stations, and most people in Sofia live in apartment buildings. They don't live in their own houses where they can charge. Here in the nearest city to our village, there's a charging station at a supermarket, one of the big German chains. There is always an EV there. I have never seen it empty, and it's the only charger I've seen in the city. So maybe in Sofia there are a few more chargers. There's even a new office building with several chargers, which are normally empty.
Right.
But it's slow. It's also slow. I see in the US, because it's a tricky thing. You have to locate them properly, and you have to make sure they will be turning in a profit.
Oh.
That's the key issue. And because people who whose business it is to develop charging infrastructure,
Right.
are holding back because they're not sure these chargers will make a profit. It's really a very nice, very pretty, neat little vicious circle. Charger developers don't want to risk their money, and people don't want to risk their money buying an EV if they have nowhere to charge it. So, yeah.
Well, and
good luck with that.
In the chargers, I believe I heard this, that a charger takes up the same amount of electricity as 5 air conditioners. So
I didn't know this. Oh,
in California, they're saying don't charge your car when you're running your air conditioner. So on a hot day, you got to sweat, be miserable to charge your car.
well, that's charming.
Oh, charming.
No, really. It's do you remember that thread I did on Friday on EVs on Substack?
Yes.
It got the most massive response I have ever seen to my threads. So many people commented, and they were all EV haters. I mean, just two people, or possibly 3, of all the dozens that commented on that thread were pro EV, and they were pro EV with conditions. It's fine for a second car. I use my EV in the city, but for longer drives, I use my internal combustion engine vehicle. It's really disheartening. I expected more from EV fans, but apparently EV fans do not read my Substack, which makes sense. But
I'll tell you, we're going to make sure that your Substack information is in the show notes, and I'm going to just recommend your stuff. As always, I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders and fans out here.
Thank you for this. That's really great.
Share things. We've got about 2 minutes left. Irina, give us your thoughts for today. It can be anything that you think of.
Thoughts for the day. Oh God. I don't know.
Irina,
take care of your health. Make sure you're healthy. The climate will take care of itself.
That's a great quote.
That's all I could come up with.
That is absolutely fantastic. And I really appreciate your industry thought leadership and everything that you're doing with Armando and David Blackman. I really respect all of those things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
You too. It's been great chatting to you as always.